This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Sunny sunset safari. We may actually even get a sunset. Can you believe it? I really hope so. And what a fantastic start. We've got a male Ellie and a male Inyala over there. Do you see that? Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a sunny sunset safari. Can you honestly believe it? The sun is shining. We are looking at this bull in the distance. I'm going to quickly say hello because there's a much bigger one to the other side. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lauren, and I do have Owen Dell on camera. And he has a big bull. Another one. Good afternoon, sir. Oh, it's a delightful afternoon, and I must say I'm just not used to this heat. I love heat, but I'm just not used to it. It's been so rainy and cloudy and rainy and cloudy. It's spectacular to see blue skies. It's spectacular to feel the sun on my skin. Now, 2 bulls on quarantine again. Don't worry, I don't think it's going to be anything like yesterday because naturally there are no cows around, no females and estrus. However, the 2 bulls look like they are walking in the same direction. We never know what might happen. And that is because we are live. This entire safari that we are bringing you is completely live and interactive. So please do talk to us. Send in your comments, your questions, jokes, theories, whatever you like using the hashtag WildEarth. Or if you're on our website watching the show, as long as you've registered, you can submit your questions there. You can send in your questions about anything, even if we're just driving. Sometimes it's nice to have discussions or answer your sort of more general questions. Oh, they are going to the same position. Would you look at that? Nothing like yesterday. These bulls are much younger. I don't see the dribble of must. I don't smell must, but I could be wrong. I wasn't actually looking. Yesterday, no matter where we went, we were smacked in the face with must. That smell, it's so strong. I happen to really like it, but I'm sure many people don't. And of course, there were cows in estrus, or at least 1 cow in estrus. And that was the issue with the 2 bulls yesterday. But these bulls, they might give each other a push and a shove, but it's nothing like yesterday. Now, this is my last drive, so I don't know what I want to do. I think it's bulls. I'm just getting my binos out. I would really like to see spots, to be honest with you. Have some really cool insect moments and whatever else we can find. I naturally will head to the hyena den at some point. But we're going to try and stick with these Ellies for now. And I hope we get a glorious sunset tonight. But let's see what the weatherman says.
Good afternoon, everybody. It seems like we're having such good luck, and we've started with a lovely elephant day. I've got a herd of elephants. It looks like a small breeding herd, and they are relaxing in the shade of the marulas up on quarantine while they are feeding. There is a very, very tiny calf here, and I'm very excited to see it. And hopefully we get to see a nice clear view just now. My name is Tessa. I'm going to be your guide on safari here this afternoon. Behind the camera is Gerrit, and we are very excited that the little baby is with this herd. We have been noticing some pretty strange things about this herd so far. The first thing is that the very big female has just used her head to knock Marulus out of the tree, and I'm hoping she does that again. The second thing is that one of these elephants has a very bad stomach. Not that we've seen it, but we can hear it. And next time I hear it, I'll point it out to you. It sounds like when a stomach is bubbling. It sounds just like that. Oh, there's the calf, right at the back. Hello, little one. It's the first time I've seen this calf flapping its ears so much, so you can tell it's a very hot day. And for the first time in a while, we've got a clear blue sky. Have a look at how gorgeous this view is today. We're definitely not used to sitting in the heat, so we're going to be doing a bit of shade hopping today. But I'm more than happy to sacrifice that to sit with a herd of elephants. Kim, it's your first time joining us. Welcome, and thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy that we get to share some elephants with you, and hopefully it's just going to get better and better as the day goes. But very exciting to have a first time on board. Very warm welcome from me and everybody with the WildEarth crew. So this little calf is definitely still trying to figure out what its trunk is actually used for. There you could hear the stomach again. So this calf has been trying to take everything it can out of the other elephants' mouths. Trying its best to put it into the mouth, but it's just not getting it right. So far it's only managed to suck on its own trunk while we've been here. It must be a tiny little mud wallow. Oh my goodness, that stomach sounds bad. It seems as though they're all concentrated around this little mud wallow. And don't be surprised into thinking that the one on the right that is sucking up some moisture from somewhere and spraying it over herself, don't be surprised into thinking, or misled into thinking, that this female is making those noises with her trunk. It's actually one of the ones on the left, and it's definitely a bubbling stomach. But it seems the fascination is trying to stay cool and still trying to steal everything it can, that tiny little calf. It's just discovered that little hole where this big female's been spraying herself from. I think we've got some very cute elephant calf action coming, so I'm going to sit and watch for as long as I can.
Do you still have to wear masks, by the way?
I don't know. The UK, they've done away with masks now.
You can see how her trunk is up. I wonder if she's smelling other elephants. I did hear other elephants earlier. Let's just listen and watch for a bit and see what happens. She's looking quite alert. They're definitely not looking as relaxed as they were. This one's been trying to imitate the behavior of the matriarch by knocking against the tree, hoping for some fruit. Oh, we're on the move. Yes, I don't think this is the calf's mother. This one still looks very pregnant. And she's got some grass on her back. Hello, gorgeous ones. Everybody moves at once. I love it. What a special moment.
Good afternoon and welcome to Eco Training Pridelands. We decided to start off this afternoon at Leopard Dam. Seeing that it's incredibly hot and not much is going to move, and if it is going to move, it's definitely going to come towards water. And that is our plan of action for so far. When it does cool a little bit down a little bit later, we would love to go and follow up on those tracks of the leopard that we had found this morning. And we hope to find the mother and the cub. So my name is JP LaRue, and behind the camera we've got Darby. So as we were walking around over here, we did notice a few little interesting things. I'm just going to share some of them with you. And one of them is a tiny little spider, which has actually taken up residence over here. Just as a habit always, when you do walk off into the bush, just always check where you put your feet. You never know what you might step on. So right over here, this is where our little spider is. I'm not going to put a shadow on him, but you can just see him in the inside over there. I'm just going to move out so I don't cast a shadow on him. So I believe this is one of the primitive species of spiders. If we do divide spiders into two groups, you get primitive as well as advanced spiders. More primitive species generally have downward facing striking fans compared to the more advanced spiders, which has got sideways closing fangs. And we did see him trying to catch something with the fangs striking forward. So not all spiders will make elaborate webs, and this is one of the characteristics also of the more primitive groups of spiders. They'll make very simple tunnels, and sometimes they will make little silk-like lids, which they will use to cover those tunnels to prevent that there's other water or other debris falling in there. And they also generally tend to ambush prey from that specific point. We also find in those species, such as some of the ground-dwelling species, such as baboons or the more primitive species, that the females very seldom will move away from that burrow. And if it is a male, or if you do find what's moving around, it's generally a male that is looking for an opportunity for mating. We even find that with some of the species of scorpions, like rock-dwelling long-tailed rock scorpions, and also some of the creeping scorpions, where the females will stay in their burrow systems, and when you do find one that's wandering close by, it's generally a male. There's also something else that's just wandering over here. I just want to have a quick look what it is. It's unfortunately now moved onto this side. I just want to see. It looked like a little spider. Now he's gone. Some of the other insects that we also did find over here this afternoon was a citrus swallowtail butterfly, which is a yellow and dark speckled butterfly. And Good afternoon, Zama, and welcome to the show. And I also love watching the small stuff, and that's the things that I actually find the most interesting. And it's also for me interesting because it's the small things that actually keep the whole ecosystem intact. To come back to the citrus swallowtail, I just want to see if it's maybe fluttering around here, and it will also be difficult to get it on camera if it is. But it's a fairly large yellow butterfly with little dark speckling marks on it. And we often find them in association with citrus plants, and they love laying their eggs on those plants. And so that's their choice of food for their larvae. One of the things that I do also find particularly interesting is that the caterpillar actually imitates a bird dropping. So therefore, it's very unlikely that birds will actually feed on the caterpillar. Another butterfly that we did see over here a little bit earlier, which actually an African monarch, which does another strategy to protect itself. And both the caterpillar as well as the adult butterfly has a large amount of toxins inside it. So generally cardio-based toxins, and those toxins are absorbed from milkweed plants, which the larvae feeds on. And those toxins are then carried into adulthood. Very interesting. I was reading an article on elegant grasshoppers recently, and that's precisely how they also obtain many of the toxins which they use as a defense against being eaten. And meanwhile, let's go and see what Lauren is up to.
Our two bulls are just sitting, well, standing bum to bum. Younger boys, little bachelors, picking up every marula. Not a single marula left for Lauren. That's okay. They're hot, they're standing in the shade. We have also positioned in the shade. And it's just so thoroughly enjoyable. Summer brings about quite intense elephant sightings on quarantine in particular. And that is because it is a big open area. It's right next to a huge water body. And of course, it's filled with female marulas. So the elephants know exactly to come from any angle on the reserve, arrive in quarantine, and you will just meet marula after marula after marula that's dropping its fruits. Some of my best illy sightings, my career here, have been on quarantine with large herds in summer. And yesterday was right up there. I'll never forget that. Didn't catch that name, I'm afraid, but they're trying to cool down. That's the elephant's way of cooling down. So basically, the ears are so large for a reason. They're so thin as well. I don't know if Owen can get a nice close-up of the ear. It's very, very thin skin compared to the rest of the body. And you can actually see all the veins and capillaries there. So it's a network of capillaries that allows for heat to be lost from the body. And by flapping their ears like this, they can actually lose up to 75% of heat. They have other ways of losing it, but the ears are the bulk of it. So when they flap like that, they're exposing, see at the back, there's a big network, you can see all the veins and capillaries right at the back there. They're exposing that area. Not only does it create a little, when you fan your face, you get a little bit of air. That helps, but they're actually trying to expose it to lose heat. Because it is a really, really thin piece of skin, they lose heat through their ears. It's like air conditioning units, really. And when it's a cold day, they'll keep their ears tightly sort of against look at them. Oh, so you guys are friends? Okay. That wasn't like yesterday. Remember, I don't have a monitor, FC. What is that white thing in his eye? I can't see what Owen is filming. I'd imagine it's just the same thing as our sleep. When we wake up and we have that little... Okay. I can't see what the cameraman's showing. But normally elephants have just that little bit of... You know, when we wake up, we call it sleep. I don't actually know what it is. Everything crusts in the corner of our eye, and normally the first thing we do when we wake up is give a big stretch and then pick that thing out of our eye. Just extra moisture. It sort of dries up and goes crusty. It's very, very similar for elephants. But obviously, we live in a really dusty environment here. It's very sandy and dusty. That's why they have long eyelashes. So all the dirt and extra moisture and just everything collects and pools in the corner of their eye, exactly like humans. It's so lovely. It's such a contrast to yesterday's sighting, really. This one is calm and peaceful. The energy is very different. I'm not copying that question, I'm afraid. Owen, are these two bulls?
Siblings.
Siblings from Nancy. I have no idea. I'm not sure how I could possibly know that. I doubt it. But I guess on some level it's possible. One is slightly older than the other, so I guess on some level they could have come from the same mother. But I highly, highly doubt it. I don't think there's a big enough age gap. And also, it's very normal for sort of bulls just to leave the herd. And once they leave the herd, they go off on their own, or they seek out other young bulls and sort of create almost a bachelor herd, if you like. It's very common for them to follow around the older bulls as well. They are key in paving the way for the younger bulls. However, I think a lot of the older bulls right now are rather distracted because most of them seem to be in must. But no, I highly doubt it, but I guess there's a possibility. They're not in must from what I can see. I don't see any dribbling, no smells. They're not competing. They are younger. The one on the right is definitely younger. And that older one is going to go straight to that other marula tree and hoover them all up. Okay, we are going to sit with these bulls a little bit longer.
Just arrived at Treehouse Dam, and I'm hoping that as the afternoon wears on, We might get some action here with elephants coming down. If we're lucky, maybe a buffalo. Because it is so hot today, I'm anticipating that the animals are going to be here at some point or another. There's a bachelor herd of impalas scratching around along the edges. And they're concentrated where they normally are, where there's a bit more greenery and shade. And there's a lot of stunning bird calls. It's a very peaceful way to start off our afternoon after being so lucky with some elephants. I want to sit here for a while and just listen in case there is anything else around. We can hear anything happening. Let's just take a moment and have a nice listen at the dam. The water is like glass. The impalas are actually edging closer. I wonder if they're going to have a drink. This is why I love dam hopping on a hot day. Not much actually compares in terms of a scenic spot to sit and just take it in and watch life come and go around you.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Pridelands. We're still at Leopard Dam and at the moment waiting for some larger animals to come in, and while we're waiting for larger animals to come in to come and have a drink, we're also looking at the smaller components within the ecosystem. One of the things that we were looking at a little bit earlier was a butterfly which was dull colored. So not all butterflies are brilliantly colored. So we were discussing it. Unfortunately, it moved off. And we mentioned with one another what is the differences between moths and butterflies. In general, we find that the moths are actually the ones that are dull in color. However, there's also a number of very brilliantly colored moth species as well. We also find in general that moths tend to be night flying compared to the butterflies, which tend to actually be day-flying species. But once again, there is also a number of exceptions. But if we do look a little bit closer, we quite often will look at the antenna, and if we look at the head, we'll see club-shaped antenna on the top of a butterfly's head, where we often find feathery-like structures on the male moth's head. And we quite often find that those are to locate pheromones and other scents. And here we go, there's our butterfly again, and this time it's our monarch. A few things that you will notice is that it's got bright colors, orange, black and white, which is all warning colors, which will indicate that it is toxic. A few days ago we were also looking at a monarch mimic, also known as a common diadem, and those, the females actually look identical to that of an African monarch. And they do so to avoid being captured by a range of different predators, as those predators have learnt that these are quite distasteful. But there's another distasteful insect which I just located on directly behind me. I just want to see if I can find it again. Slightly distracted over there when we followed that butterfly. Oh, here it is. And here we have one of the netwings beetle species. I'm just going to wait for Darby to bring the camera a little bit closer and then zoom in. And there's 3 of these different species of netwing beetles that we find in this area. They have a hooked wings, which has got a prominent little hook on the top, broad wing and narrow-winged netwing beetles. As you'll notice, they've also got orange and black colors. These are also warning or aposematic colors, indicating that they are toxic. And we find that in their development stage as young, they obtain a number of toxins from plants. And one of the toxins that they do have inside them is a chemical that's known as canferidrin. And canferidrin generally leads to the blistering of skin. However, I have picked these up and it's never happened to me before, but it is distasteful to a range of different predators. But there is another insect that we have out here, which is known as a blister beetle or a CMR beetle. And we find them in a yellow and black as well as in a red and black form, which once again indicates potential threat. And those are particularly bad. And I've had them on my skin before where they made contact and where they excrete that canferidrin as a chemical that leads actually to incredibly big blisters to form. And once those blisters pop, there will be a next blister that forms where that chemical will then make a contact that exudes from that open scar that it's been created. And obviously seen a grasshopper there as well. But just coming back to our netwing beetles and the canferidrin, we also... Sorry, I couldn't hear the question very clearly that you just mentioned. If you don't mind to repeat it. Good afternoon, Bernice, and welcome to the show. And Bernice's question is if there's any insects which is dangerous if you touch them. Yes, I would definitely not touch a blister beetle. And then certain species of moths, which belongs to that group of processionary caterpillars, we call them reticulated bagnet moths. Those moths, if they do make contact with your skin, that will also lead to those itchy scales leading to a rash on your skin, and I would definitely not try and touch any of those two. So those are just two groups of insects that I can think of that you don't want to touch. And then there's also certain beetle species like the ground beetles, which is predatory beetles, and also tiger beetles. All of them has a chemical that they can exude if you get into close range and harass them, and that will also lead to blistering on the skin. And you definitely don't want to get in your eye. Well, meanwhile, let's go and see what the rest of the team is up to.
We did have a large collection of ellies. They have wandered off. I was hoping their trajectory is a dam, but I'm not entirely sure. I love seeing ellies drinking. It's just a normal bodily function that we all do. I'm always drinking water. I drink a lot of water. It's completely normal, but for some reason when animals do it, it's just nice to watch. When the cats do it, even dogs, elephants, even the antelopes, giraffe. There's something very lovely about watching animals drink for some reason. They could possibly be going to Timbetapan, which is not ideal. I wanted them to come to this dam. Owen, what is Laura asking? Sorry, there's a bit of a language barrier, I think, going on. Lost an ear, Laura? No, I haven't. I've seen elephants with severely damaged ears, torn and ripped and bits of it missing and holes. We've also seen elephants, so although it's really, really thin skin, right at the top there's actually a fair bit of cartilage, just like our ears, and that's what's keeping the structure at the top. The rest of it just is skin and it just hangs. And I've seen an elephant that's sort of damaged that cartilage and they end up with floppy ears, so it's no longer staying upright, but not without an ear. I haven't. Even in Sri Lanka, a lot of the elephants, they've been through the wars there, lots of injuries, but not missing an ear, I'm afraid. Yeah, I think they've gone to a better pen. Here they are, I can see them. No, elephants, why you go there? Okay, I think there are still someone, so we can look back around. People live in Tambetta now, so I'm not entirely sure they would welcome us arriving. So we'll loop round and go back to quarantine. It's actually marginally cooling down, just going to make it easier for us, easier for the animals. I'd love to see hyenas and leopards today, but that might be too much of an ask. Okay, I'm going to loop around, see if we can catch some more elephants for now, and we're going to send you guys over to Tessa.
It sounds like a lovely plan. I'm still sitting at Treehouse Dam, and we are trying our best to get a butterfly on screen, but it keeps leaving every time we try and focus on it. It looks like it's just a normal African migrant. There, it's landed somewhere in that greenery. There we go. Oh my goodness, we got it on screen. Okay, definitely just it's called an African migrant is the broad umbrella term for any of these very light yellow butterflies, but it's very, very active. We are struggling to keep it in the screen. But what is sticking around is some blacksmith lapwings. And definitely the impalas. It looks as though it might be bath time, so this is my favorite time to spend with the lapwings. They drink a bit, they feed a bit, and then they have a really nice bath in the afternoon. Oh, it looks like it's standing on very sticky mud there. It started walking very quickly. Oh, please have a bath, lapwing. Oh, look at that reflection. There we go. It's starting. You can actually see how waterproof those feathers are. Lena Poli, I agree, it is very adorable to watch, and I just love how, it's a very meticulous process, but it just looks like so much fun. The bobbing in the water from front to back, shaking the tail as it goes. It almost bobs the tail a little bit faster. See there at the end. I've been very lucky to witness these blacksmith lapwings bathing like this a few times now in the last 2 weeks. And every time I'm amazed at how waterproof those feathers are. You can't see the water soaking in, you can see the water falling off its back. Bit of a waxy, oily coating on the outside of the feathers, and that's actually why birds preen themselves. They've got a preen gland, which is an oil gland, and that helps to coat the feathers and keep them waterproof. Checking if anything else needs to be realigned. You can see it's also moving its wings very, very fast to try and get some water underneath into those feathers as well. Oh, cute little jump. Trying to knock off some of the excess water there. Now you'll find it'll start preening its feathers again, realigning, cleaning, and then every now and then shaking off again. Works incredibly quickly. You can see it doesn't spend too long in one area. It's moving multiple feathers in a second. I think I'd get dizzy if I tried to move that fast. I wonder if the other one is going to come over and join it. What I've noticed the few times I have been lucky enough to watch this is once this one finishes, the other sometimes comes and joins in and has its own bath. And once I've actually seen them both together at the same time, it was like a dance, choreographed to perfection. Now it's time to sit in the sun and warm up a bit, dry off the feathers. Must be quite a big relief for a black and white bird to cool off in the water. Doris, yes, long legs like that do look quite appealing, I'm sure, especially on a blacksmith lapwing. I don't know if I would want legs that are that long. I mean, I'm fairly tall, but I understand. I understand where you're coming from. I wish I could move that fast without getting dizzy. I mean, that would be my main goal. And on a hot day like today, I wish I could just jump in with it and have a nice cooling bath, a mud bath. I know Jonty is coming back, and I'm sure he's going to be having a mud wallow here or there, knowing him. This is a very fascinating process to watch. You can see it's very meticulous. It's physically pulling its beak over each little feather there, making sure there's no parasites, making sure it's lined up correctly. Beautiful. Right, I'm going to stick around for a little bit longer because the impalas are up on the dam wall and we might get a few animals coming down as we wait and the afternoon wears on. Wish me luck. Hopefully it's elephants.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We're still at Leopard Dam, and so far this afternoon we've been looking at a number of small insects, and these range from little dragonflies as well as fret tails, some moths as well as a different number of butterflies and even a few spiders. So far the temperature is quite high and it's very humid this afternoon, and therefore things seem to be a little bit slow. So instead of looking for animals, we're just simply waiting for them to arrive at the waterhole. And we hope that there's going to be a few of them popping in. So some of the animals that we have found in the last few days that potentially can pop in here There's a nice big herd of buffalo that's making their way around the area. I'm also hoping that there might be an elephant or two that comes in for a quick drink. A little bit later, we're going to start looking for leopard. This morning, we managed to locate several tracks of a leopard, as well as a sub-adult cub and a younger cub that was accompanying her. And meanwhile, we're just going to be providing you guys a silent moment and let you listen to all the beautiful sounds in the background. A number of different insects. You also might hear some frogs, as well as a number of different birds that are calling.
Marulas, I think. Stock up on energy, boost those sugar levels before the next fight. But they were clanging tusks and banging heads. They could possibly be getting ready for the onset of must. Very, very early onset, where testosterone levels will already start to change. But it's now just very calm. Bulls start tussling from a young age, and as they get older, it becomes more and more serious. And then throw a female into the mix, it becomes very serious. I'll reposition a bit, Owen, but Ellie, you're saying any time spent with elephants is your favorite. I know, it's a perfect way to spend that sort of first part of your afternoon drive, especially when it's hot and you're able to just sit in the shade and watch them. It really is pretty special. I love watching them interact like that. I agree with you, Ellie. I love spending time with elephants. A little bit different from yesterday's sighting.
Good afternoon, mobile. Is anyone out and about? How's Dion?
Red Jack, no, not at all. Yesterday they were really, really fighting and one just ran away. No one has to die, but it can absolutely lead to death. I believe an elephant died in Addo last week from fighting between bulls. But these guys are not fighting seriously. I mean, they were really going for it earlier, but it's not. It's just typical bull behavior. Whereas yesterday was, if one didn't run away, then it could have absolutely have been fatal. That was the real deal yesterday. But this is just two boys sizing each other up. Okay, we're going to sit here with our two bulls a little while longer, and you guys are going to head over to JP.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. At the moment we are looking at a damselfly. I'm not quite sure which one it is, but it's definitely going to be one that I'm going to have to go and look up. I just love damselflies and dragonflies. If you were following yesterday's show, we were actually discussing the differences between damsels and dragonflies. And for those of you that didn't, there's a little recap of how they actually differ from one another. As you notice, with the damselfly, the wings are actually closed, and they're thin and thread-like, unlike dragonflies, which have their wings open and are quite robust in appearance. When it also comes to the eyes, we'll notice that the eyes are compound and very close by on dragonflies, as that they've got slightly over the separation when it comes towards damselflies. Good afternoon, Nathan, and welcome to the show. And with your question, if it's the insect that is making it, it's unfortunately not the damselfly. I actually don't think damselflies make any form of sound, but what you are hearing in the background is cicadas. And when it's incredibly hot, they tend to actually start producing these shrill sounds in the very early part of the morning, and they continue right throughout the day. And I reckon the warmer it is, the earlier they actually start calling. And the calls that you are hearing is all produced by males. And what I do find particularly interesting, the purpose for it is to attract males. But some males are very smart, and they know that they don't have the ability of producing a sound that as clear and as loud. So therefore, they will quite often go and sneak up towards where one of these males are sitting, and they will actually ambush the females that are making their way in over towards those more dominant males, and then mate with those. We see the very same behavior with a number of frog species too.
chunks for venison pie, so diced venison, and then pieces for stew on the bone.
Looking at a number of different insects this afternoon, and the insect that we are discussing at the moment is these incredibly shrill sounds that we hear, and that's made by a cicada. And what we do find is that it's males that are producing the call, and it's only dominant males that will produce calls because their purpose is to attract a female that they would like to mate with. We're just also talking about how some of the less dominant males would know that they can't produce such a clear and precise sound, and as loud as that will actually sneak up and go and position themselves very close by to those males that are calling, and then mate to the females that are on their way to those specific males. It's also one of the loudest sounds that you probably can hear. If I remember correctly, there's claims for between 102 and 107 decibels that they can produce. And meanwhile, we're just going to pan the camera over the water and do a further silent segment and allow you to listen to all the different sounds of insects as well as birds in the background. Some of the bird calls that you might hear is that of red-billed buffalo weaver and also Cape turtle dove.
We are still following these ellies, but I'm going to reposition a little bit. A night pack. Maybe they will go down to Gowrie Dam to drink. That's a possibility. After they've gone to every marula tree possible. Can you work with this, Owen? They're just following each other, learning from each other, tussling with each other. But it does really, really benefit these young bulls to hang around with an older bull. If the older bull's in must, then he really is going to be focused on the females. But out with must, it really, really benefits them. And the role of that older male, as I've mentioned quite a few times, has now been recognized in literature as being absolutely pivotal to elephant societies. So naturally, the matriarch gets recognized because she leads the herd to success, really. Absolutely. She raises the herd that grow these young boys. But once they go off on their own, it's really those older bulls that take over from the matriarch and make such a difference to these younger bulls' life. There's a lovely paper on it that got released quite recently, just about how key that role of the older bull really is. And that's what happened in Madikwe, actually. I can't really remember how many years ago, but they had a scenario with very, very few, if not, I think there was almost zero of these much older bulls that we call gentlemen, the calm, older bulls that can just handle themselves. And a lot of the young bulls like this were just a little bit out of control. They were causing havoc and being aggressive with one another, being aggressive to other animals and humans. And it was decided that they would relocate some of the older Kruger bulls down to Madikwe, and it was a huge operation, and they did. And believe it or not, they gave it 6 months, and within 6 months, these younger bulls had calmed right down, because they could no longer behave like that, because there were boys in town that were now a lot bigger than them. And it just calmed the scenario right down, almost reset the society, if you like, restored the balance. And the elephant population is thriving down there, but these young boys are really calm now. So you need these older bulls, and that scenario is really proof of that. I guess it's like that in human societies. Respect your elders, learn from your peers. I love it when the shadows dance across their bodies. It makes them look even more beautiful. I miss walking through this long grass on bushwalk. I loved summertime doing bushwalk. Walking across quarantine, sometimes I would do 3 hours not leaving quarantine. Ashley, you think that the one on the right is just trying to avoid the other. Possibly wants to eat in peace. But earlier on when they were fighting, they were both into it, let me tell you. That was equal participation from both. But very possibly he just wants to eat now. One is definitely older. But otherwise it's very calm. Are you guys gonna go for a drink? Lois, we do have an elephant wire. An electric wire that's obviously high up. It wouldn't affect a lion, a leopard, or a hyena. It's very, very high up, and it would give you shocks if you touched it. And naturally, elephants don't even touch it because they can feel the vibration and the sort of pulsation of the electricity without touching it. So it's a real deterrent, and we have one that runs around the whole camp. Elephants have gotten into our camp. They love to come to Owen's car, which Owen does not love. But we do have that wire running all the way around. But otherwise, that's about it. It's a very wild camp. Okay, I think we've lost visuals of both our Ellies. I'm going to reposition. We've had a lot of incredible moments of animals coming into our camp, that's for sure. waking up from a nap and having a vervet monkey look at you in your room is quite a unique feeling. Watching Netflix in bed and finding Saka entering your room. Saka is a hyena. It's also a very unique feeling. Oh, Saka, I miss you. Anyway, I'm hoping that we're going for a drink. I'm gonna follow this boy and you guys are gonna head over to Tessa.
That would be wonderful, Lauren. I waited patiently at Treehouse Dam for elephants to come down and drink. Unfortunately, no such luck for me. But that's okay. I saw them at the beginning of drive with a little baby and I'm happy. So I'm now bumbling towards my favorite little pan system where the weavers are nesting. And then we're going to mix it up a bit this afternoon. We're going to change direction and go completely east and see what we can find towards Cheetah Line. It is a very, very hot afternoon, so we are enjoying the shady patches when we find them. And I've mixed it up completely today by wearing a different hat as well. I'm trying my luck with a different hat to see if it's also as lucky as the other one. Small things, small things. What is very refreshing to see today is just in the little while we were at the dam, we saw a lot more butterflies, a lot of dragonflies, damselflies, and that makes me happy. Mac, it definitely is. A bush breeze is a lifesaver out here, and definitely when we're driving, it's the best for us. Preferably if there's a nice breeze, you can go sit in the shade somewhere and have a nice view in front of you. That's always exciting. Sorry, I just wanted to check there. I saw something in the water. What was that? Not a bit of knob-billed duck. Have a look-see. I'm going to try and swing in here. Ah, it was a knob-billed duck, but it's gone. We'll see if we can get my weaver's nests instead. Doing a bit of up and down for Gert today. My lucky hat is still lucky because I saw a glimpse of a knob-billed duck. Oh, my weaver's nests aren't looking too bad today. Interestingly enough, from here I actually can't see the green one. So it's drying out very quickly thanks to the hot weather. And that is a massive advantage to these weavers today. But yes, even the breeze will help these weavers' nests. Helps it stay cool inside because you can see they're very exposed to the sun. Very well designed in that the main surface area faces downwards instead of towards the sun in the heat of the day. But it would still get quite warm in there, especially next to a little water hole. It might get a bit humid. So the breeze is even helpful for these basket nests of the weavers. I wonder if the male weaver is around. I could hear a weaver. I just can't see it. Is it hiding? Is it building that one, Gert? That is actually the green one. Let me see if I can move a little bit backwards for you. That's the one we've been watching it build for a little while. That should work. Oh, and there's a woodland kingfisher. I don't know about all of you, but I feel like that's the brightest woodland kingfisher I've seen in a while, thanks to the weather. Oh, you can actually see the sun glinting off of its beak when it turns. Its beak is still wet. You can see it's taken a bit of a dip into the water, even the chest feathers are wet. Trying to clean the beak a bit. It's looking for food. How polite. That's definitely the most neon feathering I've seen in quite a while. I actually did see a flash of the weaver almost as the woodland kingfisher landed. The weaver actually came down towards the water's edge, probably collecting some more grass. Rhoda, it's almost hard to believe that that amount of precision can be achieved with a beak. Oh, it's just taken a dip and now it's landed on a different branch. Trying to catch some food, but also trying to cool off. But yes, that precision that a weaver gets with just a beak alone is very impressive. There's actually a few different species of bird around the world that build very intricate nests, and I know one or two of them even sew their nests shut. So for example, if you have two big leaves and you want to make a cup inside of the leaf, what the birds will actually do is just take a little piece of grass that's quite strong, and they'll make holes in the leaves on either side, and they weave it through like you're sewing with a needle and cotton. They weave it through like that to secure the nest, and you'll do it a few times to keep it strong. But it's just, you almost can't fathom that it's happening with a beak alone and nothing else. And then you kind of wonder, this is where the debate comes in. Is this all intelligence, or is this watching and learning from the older generation? A combination of both. I think it's a lot to do with pure instinct. But anyway, I will watch this kingfisher for a little bit longer, and I'm going to hope the male weaver comes back, and then we'll bumble off from here.
We're just traveling a little bit because I want to get into the dry riverbed. I want to drive that today. That's my goal. So we're just taking a really slow bumble because there seems to be elephants on every corner, which is why we're driving slowly and just enjoying this glorious summer day. I'm overjoyed. It really hasn't been a sunny month, January. Last year it was. Sorry everyone. We're just going to give you some views over here. And just listen to the sounds of the bush. Nothing from one water hole to another, that's where we're going to end up. I think today is a day for jumping around the water holes. So hopefully as we cruise down the riverbed, we might get lucky.
So we've changed our perspective a little bit. We moved over to the other side so that we can see a little bit clearer the different nests, but also, bless you, but also the woodland kingfisher as it's diving down and coming back up onto the branch. Because it was changing position quite a bit, we couldn't really see it nicely. And now we've got a lovely clear view. It's looking a lot wetter than it was a while ago. Definitely enjoying the coolness of the water, just like that blacksmith lapwing earlier. There was a knob-billed duck. As we pulled up, it looked like a male, but it didn't have a very distinct knob. It had the coloration and a small little growth on the beak, but not big enough that it immediately caught my eye as a knob-billed duck. Having a wonderful time. Rick, no, I wouldn't really think so. It would be very difficult to tell just from the shape of the beak whether a bird's nest would be messy or not. Because, just to give you an example, just in the weaver family, you know, sociable weavers have these very compact baskets. Like you can see, it's very neat. Or village weavers, sorry. If you look at like a lesser masked weaver or anything like that, southern masked weaver, their nests are a cup shape with the basket like that. But they're very messy. And it's very closely related species. In fact, people often confuse them upon look. But when you look at the nests, they're entirely different. So I wouldn't say that you can tell just from the look of something's beak what kind of nest it will have. You might have an inclination. So if you have a look at a bird and you can kind of guess what family it's from, you'll have a good idea of what kind of nest it'll make, the basic shape. But you wouldn't really be able to tell whether it's messy or neat. And actually, just to answer a question from this morning, I went and did some research. Darby asked me a question about helmeted guinea fowls, because we saw a lovely family of them this morning with some little chicks on the road, very, very early on in this morning's drive. And he was asking me about when the chicks change colors. And it seems that it's dependent quite a bit on diet. But it's normally around 4 to 6 months that you'll see a color change in the feathers of guinea fowl chicks. They change from the sandy brown towards the more grey coloration. By 6 months, they should be starting to develop a bit of the facial features. And then by 10 months to a year, they'll be starting to develop their full coloration and should be finished by about a year old. And that's anywhere from about 10 months, they should be going into the breeding season. And that's why the colours fully develop by then. They actually go through 2 molts of feathers as well to get there. One at about 4 to 6 months, and one again from 10 months to a year until they reach their adult breeding plumage. It's quite tricky to find an answer for that one, Darby, so thank you very much for challenging me. I love learning new things. So I would be very interested to see, the difference, going back to the question about the type of nests and a bird's beak, the difference between different species within a family and between families that are very similar, I guess in a sense you could be able to compare that, because the weavers all make basket nests, but it doesn't really determine the neatness of the nest. But if you look at something like a waxbill in the waxbill family, they make a ball nest, but not on the edge of a branch like these ones right in the middle. And they've also got a short and stout beak, which is fairly similar to a weaver's beak. But they're completely different families, completely different nesting types. Oh my goodness, it just got back. Definitely still busy constructing. It's got quite a long piece of grass. So you can definitely tell that's the fresh nest because of the green coloration. But I'm very impressed because it was starting to dry out when I was here yesterday. was looking a lot more brown, so he's added a lot of reinforcement to the outside of this nest, and it's gone green again. So the inside layer is dried, and now he's packing over the top layer, just trying to make sure that he's got enough support all around the nest to make sure it's strong enough. Sorry, you might hear my binoculars. There's a long-billed crombeck at the bottom of this tree here as well. So I've just noticed a long-billed crombeck in there, and I'm going to stick around and see if we can get a nice view of it. But it sounds like JP is being very successful on his side, so let's head over to him while I wait for my crombeck to come back out.
Welcome back to Ekaterini Pridelands. We've just managed to locate a kill, and we've actually found a martial eagle that's killed a rock monitor. We can just see the tail of a rock monitor that's hanging down there from the tip of a branch, while it still have its talons clenched into the main part of the body. And it's the talons that they use for actually killing and piercing the limbs and the inside. Those feet are incredibly powerful. It's also one of our largest eagle species in South Africa, as we've mentioned quite a few times. At weight, as well as combined wingspan, as well as height, it takes the record of being the largest. However, Vero's eagle is much taller than these guys are. Just to give you a rough idea, females can get up to almost 4.5 to 4.6 kilograms, if I remember correctly. And males on average are slightly smaller, and they weigh roughly around by 3.3 kilograms in weight. And the reason why males are generally smaller in birds of prey is they have to be much more agile, because they're the ones that are responsible for hunting while the female is on the nest. And with the majority of bird of prey species, the female will do virtually all of the incubation as well as looking after of that young chick, with the exception of going to off the nest for very short periods, and the male will then take over to protect the nest. And being larger, you can actually protect a nest much more effectively against a potential predator. And for these, they can be anything from reptiles, snakes that can try and raid the nest from the eggs, and there's even records of honey badgers climbing up into trees and raiding the nest of martial eagles, as well as taking adult birds. Well, as viewers that are first-time viewers of us and would like to know how to separate them from the very similar-looking black-chested snake eagle, which they often get confused with, as firstly they are considerably larger and more bulky. And then we also find that with the martial eagle that they've got dark underwings compared to where the black-chested snake eagle has got a contrasted underwing pattern of big white and black barring at the back. We also find that the legs of the black-chested snake eagle is bare, as it needs these specialized legs for catching snakes, where the feathering is all the way down towards the feet when it comes towards the martial eagle. If you watch a little bit closer, when it do start feeding, you'll notice that it brings the head down and then will start tearing pieces of meat off the main carcass and then start eating. Unlike our owls, which we were watching a little bit earlier this morning, which actually will take their feet and bring the food up towards the mouth. Good afternoon, Heather, and welcome to the show. It's always a privilege to see martial eagles, as they are actually one of my favorite birds of prey. So quite a few of the guides that I've worked with over the years, they all decided that they will name rifles that they owned after girlfriends and people that they were very fond of. In my case, I named it after the martial eagle, as I just love martial eagles so much. does look like if he's going to start feeding now, he's bringing his head down. Let's see if he's going to tear off small pieces of meat and then swallow that.
Got a very brief view of the little long-billed crombec next to that pan system. Definitely climbing on my list of favorite places to go on Juma. And I'm so excited about it because it's my first long-billed crombec on Juma. The only other ones I've seen have been at Ngala. So it is lovely to see my first crombec. If you don't know what a crombec is, it's a very, very tiny little bird. Got a very short tail and a very long bill. And they tend to, there's a leopard tortoise, hello. They tend to rush around at crazy speeds on the bottom of the brush. I don't know if we'll get it, it's moving away, but we're going to try. You can still see the glint of its carapace of the shell as it's walking. This is a very small leopard tortoise. Put it into low range, get through the brush. I wonder where it's going. It's actually not headed towards any particular shade. It's just disappearing into the grass. I like that you can just see the glint and a bit of the grass moving. Very sweet little leopard tortoise. That makes me wonder if it might actually be building up some thunderstorms in the next few days, which is more what we're used to out here. Ooh, definitely more than we're used to. Usually when you see leopard tortoises moving across the roads, then you know you might have some rain coming. Goodness gracious, but it is hot. I wonder if there will be any animals out that are not hiding in the shade this afternoon. It's scorching. It's actually hotter now than it was an hour ago. It seems to be heating up before it cools off. So I've just turned off of Gary Main. I'm headed towards Zoe's Road, and I want to just do a little loop up that way, Impala Road, Sandy Patch, Sydney's Dam, and then I'm going to go straight east along Buffelshoek Cut Line and check towards Cheetah Cut Line. Maybe we'll get lucky on that side this afternoon, but I do feel like we've got to stop off at a few dams along the way, you know, as we do on a hot day. I was a bit sad that I couldn't do my bird call challenge this morning, so just now I will be doing my bird call challenge with you, the one that I was supposed to do this morning. And this one that I'm going to test you on today is one of my mom's favorites. So I think it'll be fun. So we're actually headed towards a seapline at the moment. This is very good territory for elephants and leopards and wild dogs. But we're just going to bumble and see what comes up. It's still so hot that the animals are going to be in the shade, cooling off, not moving much. I think the temperature said it's about 31 degrees Celsius, but it's probably more like 35, 36, somewhere there. It's very, very hot. Especially when you're in the sun, so this breeze is saving us today. That being said, it's only breezy when we're driving, so when I stop, I'm trying my best to stop in the shade. Erica, you want to know if a drive has ever been cancelled due to too much... Too much what? Heat. No, definitely not. Thank you, Kat. No, we definitely haven't cancelled a drive because of too much heat. Remember, it gets very hot out here, but that is the environment the animals are used to. So we adjust to that. We have to bring a lot more water and we wear a lot more sunscreen and try and find shade as much as we can, but we don't cancel them for heat. We cancel it for only for weather that would damage the equipment. So that would mostly be wet conditions. So as long as you can keep the equipment functioning optimally, you don't need to cancel a drive. So that's why in the last few days we've had a few sections where we've played some of our best clips so far. And that's because it's been raining too hard to keep the equipment dry. But no, heat we just get used to. Lauren and I were chatting about it before drive today, saying, you know, she hasn't quite acclimatized to this heat yet. And normally by the time you've been here for a month, you've acclimatized quite well. But I don't think I ever fully acclimatized to the heat here. It is similar to where I grew up, which I suppose is an advantage. But I think I just become more tolerant of it. I become more used to it than actually acclimatizing. I still feel as hot. I just don't think about it as much by the end of a week or 2 weeks or a month. But we definitely do, I guess, get used to it in a sense. The animals are used to it every day. That's their summer. In fact, we haven't even gotten to the hottest part of the year yet. Normally our hottest section is now between January to the end of February. That gets very, very hot, and that can go in excess of 45 degrees Celsius. I think the hottest I've been in was 47 degrees Celsius at Ngala. Arctic Circle, good question. I think to narrow it down for me is quite tough. The first one that springs to my mind is a cicada. I know it's not only found in Africa. I know you find certain species in America and in other places. But you don't often hear that many insects in the bush. You see them often. You'll see butterflies flitting over and dragonflies, and yes, those are absolutely beautiful. But a cicada you hear, and you don't just hear it, you feel it. When you're out in the bush and they are humming, it's this constant high-pitched hum in the background. It feels like it vibrates your body in a sense. It cuts right through to the bone. It can get so loud that your ears get sore. And that for me is just the epitome of the bush. It's directly related to the heat, to the rain, the wind, and of course summertime. There's just so many cicadas out. Sometimes you can't go 5 meters without spotting an extra 100 on a tree, all lined up neatly on the bark. And it just, every time I hear a cicada or see one, it makes me think of the bush, because it's this constant hum that vibrates all the way down to your soul. And it's the only insect that really does that. You know, there are some really beautiful ones. I do love an African monarch butterfly. I love a damselfly. I love a mayfly in particular, very, very tiny lace wings. Antlions, I think, are beautiful, especially in their adult form. Also one of my absolute favorites, probably more so than the others, but not as much as a cicada. So I think I would still have to go with cicada. I've got a permanent cicada with me all the time because of my love for it. Do you have a favorite insect?
Praying mantis.
A praying mantis. Kat's favorite is a praying mantis. That's actually a pretty cool one. They are very unusual looking, deadly predator. Amazing eyesight.
And a stick insect.
Oh, and a stick insect. That's also really nice. So well camouflaged. I like those too. I've just realized that I said I've got a permanent cicada with me all the time. People, I don't carry a cicada around with me, I promise you. I don't carry a cicada, not a live one, not a dead one. I've got a tattoo of a cicada. Sorry, I realized that sounded bad. Oh my goodness. Apologies, everybody. No insects were harmed in the making of this. Oh, some of the other little bush willows are starting to get their pods, even some of the silver cluster leaves. Julia, I wouldn't say that raptors are worse at making nests because they are equally as successful as other birds, considering they are still out here. So we can't say they're worse at making nests. They're definitely not as skilled at making neat nests, but they don't need to. They don't need to have a very, very precise nest. They normally have these very, very big sticks and twigs, and they just have a big pile with a hollow in the middle. Oh, darn it, I missed it. Sorry, Hat. There was a lilac-breasted roller with a kill. Like a beetle. Yes, it's disappeared. Oh no, there it is. I don't know if you can get it, Hat, but it's sitting on a dry branch. So I'm going to try and get it. Let me just turn my radio down. But yes, in terms of comparing something like a roller's nest even to a raptor's nest, they're equally as successful because they have nests. And they're still around and reproducing, but they're definitely not as neat. Oh my goodness. That is quite the kill. Is that a centipede? I think it is. You can see the legs. Centipedes can be quite dangerous. This roll is looking very proud of itself, although it doesn't quite look like it knows what to do with it next. Be interested to see if it feeds on it there, how it will actually do it. I don't know if it'll try and reposition it to try and get it down in a few swallows, or if it's going to break it up on a branch. That does seem a bit long to swallow whole for a roller. It's trying to kill it still. You can see the centipede rolled itself up. It's trying to knock it against the branch to kill it. Centipedes have quite a hard exoskeleton, so to kill one is quite tough. And they've got a very big set of pincers that can give a very painful bite. That you can see, that's the top side of the centipede. The underside was the side we saw first that was more yellow in color. That's the vulnerable side. But if the roller uses enough force and keeps knocking it against the tree, it would probably kill it fairly quickly. Lee, it is definitely one of those birds where you get such beautiful striking colors. This is what makes it the most photographed bird in southern Africa. That rainbow all over it. If you listen carefully, you can actually hear the impact. It's feeling a bit vulnerable, that's why it's looking around, making sure there's no predators coming to eat it or to steal the centipede. I'm trying to work out if it's the sound of the centipede hitting the bark that we're hearing, or if it's the roller's beak possibly hitting. Oh my goodness. Andrew, lilac-breasted rollers will eat anything that is small enough. So majority of the diet would be things like beetles, insects, millipedes, centipedes, anything that they can pick up with their beaks and throw around. And this is a very common method for a roller of killing those invertebrates, because most of the insects, remember, will have a very hard shell, a hard exoskeleton. So to get through, you have to be able to break it. So this is more commonly seen with beetles especially. It's actually my first time seeing a lilac-breasted roller with millipede. Sorry, centipede. But their diet will be any small invertebrates. It looks like it's done a decent job. So you might find the branch that it's actually sitting on right now is a branch that it uses regularly for hawking. That's the hunting method of a lilac-breasted roller, to get these invertebrates and insects. It sits high up on a branch that's open, usually just above the ground, so high up on the branch itself, but the branch is very low to the ground. So towards the end of the branch, and then it watches for insects and invertebrates moving through underneath, whether it's through the grass or the soil or across the road. Then it'll fly down, pick up the food, and then go back up to that same branch and keep eating it there and then hawking. So from here, if it manages to actually get the centipede down, oh my goodness, there it goes. Now it'll be looking for the next food up on the same branch. Very entertaining to watch. Thank you, Roller.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We still took a small little drive and we're trying to see if we can relocate on our leopard from this morning. We found the tracks of a leopardess with a sub-adult as well as a young cub that was accompanying her. They all went to go and have a little drink at a dam that's known as Buffalo Pan. And from there, they decided to move into the drainage line. We're just busy working the roads that are actually running parallel to that drainage line to see if we can find anything that has come out. So far, it's incredibly warm, so it's still unlikely that they've actually did move for the last few hours. However, the earlier parts of this morning were still pretty warm. Just want to quickly focus on the road over here. It's not the most even piece of terrain. So generally we find that leopards and big cats like lion will tend to go inactive as it becomes warmer, and then rest up in the shade and then become active a little bit later in the evening when it cools down again. However, in winter they can still be active even in the middle of the day. When you are driving uneven terrain where there's a lot of ruts and bumps, a good little piece of advice is always to keep your thumbs on the outside of your steering wheel and actually let your fingers roll with the steering wheel. The reason therefore, if you do catch them on the inside and you lose control of your steering wheel in the rough terrain, you actually have a big chance of actually breaking your thumbs. That's a lesson that quite a few guides had to learn. it does seem if we did find some of our tracks here in the front of the road, we're just going to see where it's leading, and hopefully we'll be able to locate on our leopard.
We are just roaming Chitwa Open. It's a beautiful open area, and I'm on my way around to more elephants. But I do have an update for you. We did have Mr. Wig for you all. Mr. Wig is back! With sadly no signal, which is really unfortunate, but the reason I'm telling you is because you always ask me about the wigs. How are the wigs? How are the wigs? And we went all the way down to the Mowati. I couldn't see Missy's wig. They look different in the face, so actually quite different. But I know she'll be there, but Mr. Wig was there. And it was so jolly good to see him. I have quite a deep relationship with that owl family, I think, spotted eagle owls. It runs deep for about 3 years now. I've watched them, not always successfully, but raise 3 different chicks from Sebwig, Olivia, to Twiglet, and tried to follow the story as much as I humanly possibly could. And I care deeply about those owls. I know their territory, I know their calls, I can recognize which one's a male, which one's a female, and it was just so good to see Mr. Wig. So I just thought I would let you all know that, because I know a lot of you also really love the wigs. I'm going to try and see if we can position ourselves in the shade. It's always nice to just approach an elephant herd really, really slowly. I mean, you can see them, they're huge. Just to figure out, are there any sassy pants? Is there any upset? What is their behavior? I see the little baby. Oh, that one's gonna stick on his head, Owen. Why do you have a stick on your head? It's very pretty. What's the occasion? Maybe we've interrupted a little party. You look gorgeous. This little one's very small as well. It's behind the bush right now, but if we just stay here for long enough, it will pop out. Elephant calves get a little bit nervous when they're not right next to an adult, especially mom. I don't know if this is mom. Have you had too many marulas? I think so. Ruben, yes, lots of elephant action. Elephants are everywhere. I love days like this. I think that was her way of getting it off. Okay. Well, it's off. Look at that little one. It's tiny. And you see how it just followed mom for no reason? That's the mimicking behavior of mammals, but it's also very common in fish. I would imagine birds too, where they don't fully understand the behavior that they're displaying, but they're doing it because mom's doing it. I watched Tlalamba's little cub do it. We watched Impala lambs do it. And elephant calves, it just ran because mom ran. But mom was actually just trying to get a stick off her head. It was annoying her, it was upsetting her. And the little calf just ran too. It's very sweet. It's called mimicking, and that's exactly how many young learn. because you've got to instill those behaviors young, especially impala lambs. You've got to learn young when to stop, when to flee, when to alarm call. Who's the threat, who's not a threat? Are elephants the threat? No, not really. Are leopards? Yes, definitely. And that's how they learn, just by watching, mimicking mom's every move. It's just so peaceful. Sometimes in elephant sightings, I like to just go quiet. Renata, you're asking, do elephants something? We'll get there. Do elephants remember the first fight they had with each other? I don't know. I'm not entirely sure, Renata, how I would be able to know that. I'm afraid. I don't know what they remember. I would imagine they would have individual recognition. Recognizing members of your own species is incredibly important when you're an animal. It's actually more important than really recognizing other species. The enemy comes from within. And yes, it's important for leopards to recognize lions in general, but really being able to recognize individuals of your own species is unbelievably important to survival. And if you think about fish, for example, most fish are tetrachromatic. We are trichromatic. So it allows them to see colors basically more vividly than we do. They have more cones. And our color spectrum is actually quite limited compared to a lot of animals in the animal kingdom. So by fish having 4 types of cone cells actually provides 4 independent channels for conveying color information. And some fish actually see in the near ultraviolet spectrum. And this is where basically the electromagnetic wavelengths are shorter than what we can see in our so-called spectrum. Why? why do they need to be able to see in the near ultraviolet spectrum? They can, so why? You've got to ask yourself why. And there's a fantastic example, I have gone over this one before, where there are two species of damselfish. One the ambon and one the lemon, a very small little fish. And they look completely identical to the human eye, the ambon damsel and the lemon damsel. Completely identical. But the ambon damselfish, they actually defend territory really vigorously and very aggressively against members of their own species. But how do they know the difference? How do they know which one's ambon, which one's lemon? Because to us, they look the same. And it turns out through a study, each species has a completely different facial pattern visible only in the UV light spectrum. When we put UV light on these two species of damselfish, they look nothing alike. The UV pattern pops up and they look completely different. It's almost like a fingerprint between the two species. And that is for recognition skills. There had to be a way that these fish could recognize between the species. Why? Because recognizing members of your own species is the most important thing. And for leopards, they recognize the chemical signature in each other's scent, in the urine, in the marking fluid, in feces. It's like a barcode. And when you actually put this liquid and do chromatography, you'll see that no two leopard actually has the same ratio of compounds. They all have the same compounds, the general makeup, but the actual ratio of each compound for each individual leopard is completely different. And I like to think of it as a sort of unique barcode. Just imagine Kalamba has a barcode, Tungana has a barcode, Tandy has a barcode. And they can recognize each other. Why? Because they have to. The enemy comes from within. They don't need to know amber eyes and purple eye and Chela ridge nose. No, they don't need to individually recognize the lions. Yes, they need to know the lions. They'll understand the call. They'll probably pick up the scent of a lion, but they don't need to recognize individual lions. So my point for the elephant is I have no idea if they remember fights, I'm afraid. But I would imagine they would recognize another individual that they've had an encounter with. It has to be on the exact same level that they understand. It won't be visual. Elephants don't have good eyesight. Will it be through scent? I would imagine it would be a mixture of scent and audio. So I think if they have had a really aggressive fight with another, they probably would remember that individual. Got incredible cognitive ability. But as for do they remember the fights? I'm sorry, Renata. I couldn't possibly answer that. But I hope on some level that answered your question. So I think we're going to stick around here and explore Chitwa a little bit.
I am just arriving and I'm about to turn off to look down at Sydney's dam on Bafusakatlan. There was a little bit of general game around the area, so a few impalas, a few wildebeest, but none of them out in the open or hiding from the shade. I mean from the sun in the shade. But what I want to do is just have a little look at the dam. I want to scan the edges, I want to have a listen. Can already see some hippos, nostrils sticking out. So I just want to have a look while we are here, make sure what might be around. This has been a very productive dam for us. So I just want to have a listen while we're here and just take a quiet moment. Sorry everybody, excuse me. Nothing like a sneeze to destroy your listening to the bush sounds. Sorry everyone, the allergies now that the dust is back. Definitely getting the better of me today. Oh, listen to the pearl spotted owlet. There's two calling, they're calling each other. Funnily enough, that's the third pearl-spotted owlet I've heard today. Something to do with the rain and more insects being active, I'm sure. Let me see if I can find that pearl-spotted owlet, but I think it's quite far into the drainage line. How lovely to hear them calling. Nothing seems to be here except for some pearl-spotted owlets that I can't see. Just my luck.
And just like that, all the Ellies have moved off. Unbelievable. They were all on the open area and they've just all moved off. They're all going to head into the thicket there. And just like that. Have any of you seen that series yet? I'm desperate to. I want to hear your thoughts. And there's another fascinating example that I have given before, but it's about individual recognition. So every species, within their phenomena, within their sensory world, whatever sense they rely on the most, have to be able to recognize another of their own. Is it through scent? Is it through vision? Is it through audio? Hyenas recognize each other's calls, all 14 of them. Is it through patterns on their face, UV markings? But the hooded warblers, tiny little birds that actually weigh less than half an ounce, have incredible navigational skills. And those that actually survive their annual migration between the eastern US and Central America return to the same little tiny patch of forest that they occupied the previous year. And I'm talking tiny, tiny little patch on the same tree. And they establish residence there through song, that's what bird call is all about, and they actually actively border patrol their little patch, i.e. they're very aggressive. Now what this study discovered was that males recognize their neighbour year after year. The males tolerated all the sort of other males around as long as it was their neighbour that they've known. So maybe they've got a neighbour to the north, to the south, to the east, to the west. And the study used a loudspeaker, and they actually played the calls of the neighbours that they've recorded. Now, if a loudspeaker was moved, but played the same call, the male hooded warblers completely freaked out. They completely freaked out. They didn't understand what was going on. So in a human context, imagine your next door neighbour in your house that you see every single day. Hi, can I borrow some sugar? Yes, my neighbour. And imagine one day you wake up and your neighbour comes out the house on the opposite side of the street and greets you as if everything is normal. You would think for a moment, huh? You'd be confused. It's the same thing as a warbler. And the point of that story was that these tiny little birds, after an 8-month break, come back to the same spot and they recognize their neighbors. Not only are they able to fully recognize their neighbors, they're also able to understand when it's not their neighbor. And when it's not their neighbor, something's wrong. Because if it's not the males that they know, then it could be a male that they don't know, which could be a big threat. Territorial birds are not going to tolerate other birds, but they do tolerate the ones that they know, their neighbors. So they recognize each other through song. Audio. I know his song, I know his song, I know his song, but this is a new song, I don't know this, who is this? Individual recognition kingdom is incredible, and then you can dive a little bit deeper into kin recognition. Across the board, from insects to mammals to birds to fish, reptiles, amphibians, there are ways, really unique ways to recognize your kin, recognize your own. Don't want to be reproducing with your kin. Yes, it happens in the animal kingdom, but you don't want that, because essentially in terms of genetics and your bloodline, it's not going to be very healthy. So there's lots of different weird and wonderful ways to recognize your own kin. It's quite an interesting topic. You can dive quite deep into it. And it starts with recognizing your own species. So every animal out here has to know who's the enemy. I think these elephants have well and truly gone. But we are on the airstrip. We can take off and land beside some impala. I love this part of Chitwa. And it quite literally is an airstrip. Flights do land here. But the leopards love it too. Chava's always on the airstrip. Hello Impala, maybe share the shade with you. Owen, are you also in the shade? Excellent. Even impalas, think about the rutting season. It's going to happen soon, it's coming in a few months. The males are going to go haywire. They've got to know who the other male impalas are. They don't care about Inyala, Bushbuck, Steenbok, Tiger, no. They've got to know when it comes to the rutting season and the testosterone is boiling over, who are the other rams. You've got to really get into an animal sensory world. I'm going to continue my bumble around Chitwa. I'm going to send you guys over to Tessa.
So I know you're probably thinking, why on earth are we staring at a bush? But there is something here, either a snake or an owlet, and I'm thinking it's a snake because we've got some fork-tailed drongos and other birds going absolutely berserk. I'm just trying to figure out what it is at this point. Have a listen to those calls. I think there's a snake here.
They're touching each other.
Those three are. I'm sure there's something else because there's birds in the tree as well that are still chatting away, and then another few that have flown in and out. Some drama happening, everybody. A little bit of bird drama for the day. There are a few birds that are landing here and there. Everybody's calmed down. Very fascinating. When we initially got here, there was a hornbill with a kill. And I'm wondering if that set them off. Strange. Very strange. Anyway, carrying on with our bumble. I am headed east on Buffelshoek Cut Line. I'm slowly checking through all of these drainage lines all the way towards Buffelshoek Dam, which is on our northeastern corner. KG, you think snakes are invasive? It's quite an interesting comment. I wonder what makes you think that. Snakes are actually a very integral part of the ecosystem here. They've got a lot of uses, they've got a lot of benefits. Of course, if you get eaten by a snake, maybe that's not a benefit, but they are a very important part of life out here. I know it seems like they can be invasive, especially when you can see birds mobbing and all sorts of things, but that's exactly the same as impala's alarm calling when there's a lion. It's just on a different scale. But yes, I can understand. A lot of people don't favor snakes at all. So that I'm not all that surprised by the comment. maybe one day I'll change my mind if I can show you some pretty views of some of the reptiles we have out here. I know I used to be terrified of snakes, now I love them. I actually did a herpetology module in my honours year and in my final year of undergrad. I love them. I wonder what we're going to find along here. It's definitely feeling a bit cooler now that we're up and down on the crests and then down into the valleys again. We're doing a bit of a seesaw at the moment, a bit of a roller coaster ride, but it's nice because it's small scale changes and you can feel the wind on the crests. Like now where we are high up, there's a nice through wind, and then when you go down into the drainage line there's no wind, it's just absolutely dead quiet. Very unusual. I wonder what we're going to find. Alright, I'm going to keep bumbling towards Buffelshoek Dam and hopefully I might get lucky with something there.
We're still driving around looking for tracks of our leopard and the young saber-toothed cub that was with her. Unfortunately, she's given us a slip and has entered an area where we cannot follow. We did find her tracks and we managed to follow it for a very short while again. What I do find interesting is that she was actually over our vehicle tracks from this morning. So we were actually getting very, very excited and thought that we were going to catch up with her. She must have probably still moved in the early parts of this morning when it was still nice and cool, as it was overcast this morning. It's just amazing how they know precisely where to take their cubs and which areas is a little bit more quiet and where there's potentially less risks for those cubs. And that's the type of terrain that she specifically chose. A few things that we will often do as guides is when we are tracking animals is that we go to the areas where we found the animals last. We try and determine the direction of where the tracks are going into. And then we start working the blocks surrounding those areas. That literally means the roads which are surrounding that area. And then see if it comes out on the other side of the road. If it does come out, we work the next road. If it doesn't, we go back to the same spot. And quite often, if you're working in a tracker team and guide team, the tracker will hop off and the tracker will then pursue the animal on foot while the guide will try and locate it by means of vehicle. If you are ever very keen on learning some more skills about tracking, we do actually offer a number of different tracker courses. And some of the things that I do love about tracking is it helps me to be safe in the bush, as I can detect potential dangerous animals on foot fairly early. It helps me to locate animals, and it also provides me with interpretational value, as that we can interpret those tracks and tell what the animal has been doing.
You will not believe what is happening here, everyone. There is a traffic jam and a backlog for the Misikaya. Everybody wants to go. I'm getting messages, where's the Misikaya? I want to go to the Misikaya. Oh dear. Now they're going to learn who Ribbon and Corky are, that's for sure. I'm on my way. I think actually my clan of hyenas have really changed many people's perceptions out here. The Juma clan did that for just being so awesome. everybody wants to go, so I'm just going to cross back into Juba and direct everyone. Although it's a very easy hyena den to find, it's not difficult. Thank goodness, driving into the sun. I never thought I'd see the day where a Misikaya was so popular. I'm gonna need to put little name tags on all of them. So they can say, my name is Ribbon. My name is Heart. Justine, you're saying a good hyena sighting would be a lovely send-off. Absolutely. For me, it would be perfect. I'm going to miss them terribly, terribly, terribly. And I'm also convinced that Corky, I think she actually has got cubs. And I think that Dane's going to get even busier and busier. And June's courting. And Sutu's coming into adulthood. And Tima's getting there. I mean, in the belly, sorry. The clan has got good things ahead of them. I'm going to miss them terribly. Luckily, I only have about 4,231 photos of them to look back on. Is anyone on lock at the Misikaya?
Yo, I am.
Well done. Is it active?
Very, very active.
Excellent. I'm on my way. Oh well, they followed my instructions. Jolly good. Very, very active? What does that mean? Something really does not sound right over Wendy. Wendy, do not break on me on my last drive. Especially not when I'm on my way to the hyena den. I need to just repeat Mark's question again, FC. I feel like Wendy's tires are just gonna come off. Mark, there isn't really a speed limit as such. You do drive extremely slowly and cautiously. On the access roads, you do tend to drive a little bit faster, and naturally when we are doing a bit of a Ferrari safari. But there are always mitre drains. Now, they look like speed bumps, they're not actually speed bumps. And the roads are in such a condition that you really actually can't drive anywhere fast. My speedometer also doesn't. Whoa, I see what he means by very active. Oh my goodness, okay. We have an elephant. There's a queue here, guys. Why is there a queue? This might be a little bit tricky for us to navigate around. Is Ribbon, I think. What are you doing at my hyena den, Dylan? I think we can get a view back here. How is this, Odie? Can you get through here? I think it's ribbon. Let me get my binos out. But I saw 2 adults. Oh no, I tell a complete lie. It's hard. I'm sorry. Hello, Harticus. Is that an okay view, Odie? We'll work with it, people. We'll work with it. I wonder if it's also Gingarika that's around. An active hyena den. This is exactly what I wanted. I would have loved to have seen Kalamba and Cubs. I just don't know where she is right now. Really, I've tried and I've tried and I've tried. I'm sure she's going to pop up. Or maybe the tortured life is working for her. It didn't look like anyone was fazed by the elephant.
Is there any other station requiring you?
Oh, Julie, thank you. You've been a fabulous ambassador. Some people have very mean things to say online about it, but, you know, it wouldn't make much sense if all of us had the same passion. And obviously the team has changed quite a bit, but if you think about how the team used to work before, Tristan really was a leopard guy. Steve was a vegetation guy. Steve's knowledge about vegetation is just phenomenal. It's incredible. Puts us all to shame. Trishala had lots of quirks. She also loved the hyenas. She loved mushrooms. She loved insects. We all loved the lions. James was just the humor guy. Could never find anything, but he was funny. And I guess we all just had our unique areas where we excel. And that's what made us such a great unit. And I guess hyenas were just my passion. And some people can be very mean about that, that's for sure. But I just think they're such fabulous creatures. And Davi and I are about to release a series soon on sharks, because sharks are also completely misunderstood. I'm a big ambassador for insects. Yes, insects have a terrible reputation. Some transmit diseases and bite and itch and scratch. But you know what? They're also awesome. I spent about 20 minutes trying to rescue an ant lion last night that drowned itself. Picked it up and I dried it out and I dried it out and I blew on it and I separated its wings and eventually flew off. But I think it's important to speak up for those species that are not as charismatic. And I use that word really loosely because there's a fantastic paper you can read online that tells you why you should not say charismatic and why keystone species is actually a nonsense term and so is umbrella species. These are all words that I use. But it actually is a very good paper that just sort of makes you see from the other perspective why you shouldn't use those terms. And charismatic is one of them. So I use that term very loosely, but naturally, lions, leopards, elephants, rhino, wolves, they all get attention. Orcas, killer whales. But not hyenas, never hyenas, none of them. Not aardwolf, not brown, not striped, or the spotties. I don't know who just arrived. I wonder if it's Kinky. Okay, I'm definitely not going anywhere for a while. We're gonna sit at the hyena den and hope it becomes even more active.
So we've just arrived at Buffelshoek Dam, and it is a lovely, tranquil, tranquil, peaceful scene. Over here, there's a variety of different birds along the banks. There's birds calling all around us. But interestingly enough, I've not seen any hippos come up for air yet. So what I want to do while we have the opportunity is just sit and watch and listen. It's like a mirror, it's like a lake. I know that I saw some elephants coming in this direction from a distance away. And I'm hoping we'll get lucky and hear them approaching from that area of the dam where we're looking at now. But have a look at the surface as well. You can see all of the little dots. It looks like it's raining. In fact, it's actually a whole lot of insects. We've had an insect explosion in the last 2 days. But let's have a listen. There's so much going on here. I really do feel like we could spend the rest of the afternoon here just watching things come and go. Now that it started cooling down, I feel like things are about to start waking up, and maybe we'll get lucky.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We unfortunately did not manage to find our leopard as what we were hoping. We did, however, find her tracks going over our vehicle, and it's unfortunate that she went into a neighboring property where we unfortunately could no longer follow. So what we did is we made a little trip down towards one of the dams and come and see if there's any animals that are coming into it for a drink. However, nobody has yet arrived, but there's a number of Egyptian geese as well as a number of nests close by where there's a number of red-billed buffalo weavers that are coming in and out the whole time. We're just going to do a short little silent segment and allow you to listen to all the different sounds while we're panning the camera around on the dam. I just find it absolutely fascinating how quickly these Egyptian geese chicks are actually growing up. We can see that they're already starting to practice their wings and strengthening the muscles by every now and then trying to flap them. However, they're still incredibly small and probably would not be able to fly at all at this time. While we're waiting for some animals to come in for a drink and enjoying the birds that are at the dam, let's go and see what Lauren is up to.
I'm up to the hyena den, JP. Our views are not spectacular, but it's really not. It's really not a den for more than one vehicle, to be honest. It's a tricky den site, and I've been using it for quite some time now. If you think about it, well over 3 months now, they've been using this one den site. A lot of people often ask me, how often do they change? How often do they change? And I really don't know. It's so situational depending. But they've been using this one quite a while now. November, December, and now January is also over. But the lovely thing I must say about this den is it gets sort of thrown into the shade quite quickly. So the sun's still really high, it's right in my eye, but this den sort of, even at 5:30, gets thrown into the shade, which is obviously really beneficial for the hyenas, and it means it'll become active quicker. The famous Drew McClan, we need to make a movie. It's just hilarious when you speak to all the other guides. We all talk to one another. They say, who is ribbon? I've been told I've got to find ribbon for my guest. Who is ribbon? Lucy, you're in love with hyenas thanks to me. Well, I am glad. I mean, how can you not? Okay, we're finally going to get our spot. You ready, Odie? I am glad, I am glad. I think it's so nice that what WildEarth are able to do that maybe you wouldn't get on a safari experience is spend time with an animal, and that's really when you get to know them, you get to know their habits, what they get up to, who's who, who's related to who. My heart's still there. Can you see them, Odie? Hello, heart. Is it you that's honking? Yeah, I think so. You're going to actually sit in that puddle. Look, they've got an in-house spa. It's fabulous. I'll go forward a little bit so you can see her. It's stinky though. Look at you. Oh. Someone smells terrible. I have to add that. But at least now we're in the shade. But I'm glad the love for hyenas has spread. As for every animal, it should. Leopards, lions, them all. Everyone should care. It's really time to start waking up, care about all those creatures, care about habitats, look at ecosystems as a whole, and restoring balance to the planet. I work on a lot of projects with WWF, and that's the main message of the past year. Restoring balance to the planet. How do we do that? How do we get that equilibrium again? And if I can get over my arachnophobia, then I'm sure other people can get over their stigma attached to animals. And really, I say this all the time, I know that, but Google Harar in Ethiopia and see what goes on there. It's an incredible story, and some of the photos will really shock you. Harar, Harar. It's a Muslim community in Ethiopia, in the sort of western sector, northwest sector of the country. And just Google hyenas of Harar. They're also famous heart. But the relationship they have with humans, I'll let you make up your own mind on that one. Alan, hyenas love water. They love it. You will often find dams with hyenas in it, pans, puddles. They absolutely love water. Especially on hot days. They really do wallow. You wouldn't think, but they really do. I've had some fantastic sightings. One of my favorite with all the clan and Gallagher Pan. And especially for Heart, she's lactating. She's probably a little bit uncomfortable there sometimes. Maybe sores. So sitting in water is ideal. And they really adore water. Can you see? Oh, I don't think this is Gengi. This is Novella. Hello, Novella. Novella's quite timid. I don't know why. She was quite a naughty little cub. Novella was the one cub last year who was making little ooh, and she couldn't understand where the noise was coming from, and she was getting scared, and she was moving backwards into the den. She didn't know, and it was coming from herself. Oh, thank you for that sighting, Novella. Don't worry, Heart's gone back to her spa, which means we don't have to leave. We're so brave now. I remember when we would not walk past the vegetation line. Where do you think you're going? Ah, den days. What could be better? I'm going to sit here a little bit longer.
I am bumbling along Guari Pan Road, headed straight towards Guari Pan. And I'm hoping that I'm going to find some fresh tracks of Kalambak. I'm very lucky she'll actually be in the road with her cubs. But we haven't seen her or any fresh signs of her in a while. I'm hoping that was a bird. Was that a bird? Did you see? Something darted off into the grass, but it did look a little bit too quick to be Kalamba or a cub. I'm guessing probably a squirrel or a francolin. But it did get my blood pumping a little faster. So we do know that traditionally Kalamba has used insights all along here before. So we're just driving along the edge of the drainage line, going around to the pan to check if there are any fresh tracks. And if not, then that's okay. We're going to head down towards the Mulawati and see what we can find along there. Maybe some more elephants, maybe some kudus. But for now, we are just hoping that we might find some fresh signs. The last we heard, she was still moving between, say, Cheetah Cut Line, so this area, and Torchwood. And she very well could still be somewhere on Torchwood, maybe around First Rock or somewhere there. Moved her cubs a bit. I know Lauren was really hoping to see them before she left. But Lalamba's been the master, or the mistress, I suppose, of camouflage. The queen of subtlety, that's what she is. Getting fairly close towards Quarry Pan now, so I'm getting more and more anxious as I head that way. Hearing a strange noise from my tyre. Keep your fingers and toes crossed, everybody. Let's hope Lalamba is around and active.
Heart is living her best life. She has just had a spa. And now, well, I don't actually know what she's doing, but I can tell that she's living her best life over there. Heart, you're on camera. I think that's why I love them. They just make me laugh. Now we're going to try and do some genitalia zoom-ins, but remember, I don't have a monitor, so it's going to be a little bit tricky for me. But if you guys screenshot and just send them in, WildEarth, hashtag WildEarth, hashtag WildEarth, let's get some genitalia checking if we can. Because there's one cub. I just think Ribbon could have 2 boys. But I could be wrong, and I'm always willing to be wrong. But I just want to check. Novella's actually the screensaver on my phone when she was a cub. Can't stop laughing at Heart. Vicky, you're saying now this is an amazing sighting. I know. I'm very glad. You come here sometimes, many times a day. I can sometimes come here 3 times a drive and it's not active. And that's of course because moms have to go off and hunt. All the others will follow. But Novella's funny, you know, she doesn't really like to be on her own. And what happened yesterday with Khat and I was really, really something incredible. Because yesterday morning we were driving down Twin Dams Road and we bumped into Novella just sleeping on the road. I thought she was elephant poo. Sorry, my girl. And she was just sleeping. We drove around her. She didn't move. And we were on Gowrie Main. We started to hear hyenas calling. Whoop. Then immediately within minutes, Novella ran past us. Speed of lightning, right past a car. And I thought something's going on. She's responding to audio. She understands something that we don't. So we followed her. And lo and behold, the hyenas had made a kill. They dragged it from Chitwa into Torchwood. And all of them were there almost. She heard them from Twin Dams Road. They were in Torchwood. And she understood that's her clan. She most likely understood exactly who it was. And she also understood what they were saying. We have a kill. And she was there immediately. Now, Vela doesn't like being on her own, I don't feel. She's young, though. She's still got that Dane mentality. It is just amazing. I wouldn't have heard the hyenas whooping from Twin Dams Road. No way. I mean, maybe ever so faintly on a cool, crisp night. Thank you for visiting, Dylan. But she heard and knew immediately it was her clan. They can identify each individual of the clans, all 14 of their calls. That's unbelievable. But I guess it's similar. You would recognize your mum's voice, you recognize your aunt's voice, you recognize your uncle's voice. We recognize voices. I guess it's just the same for them. Heart is completely passed out in the most hilarious position. Look at that. Oh, and she's fast asleep. She's had her bath. She's tending to the cubs. Now it's nap time. Oh, okay. And you can see how much their tails swoosh, 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 getting all the insects away from those regions. Ribbon doesn't have that option anymore. I feel a bit sad. She doesn't have her fly swatter. Okay, we're going to decide what to get up to now. And we're going to send you guys over to JP on Bushwalk.
Welcome back to Pridelands. We're enjoying watching a group of impala rams, and as you'll notice, they all will be starting to form bachelor herds at this time of the year. This time of the day, literally another 15 minutes, and then the sun will set. This provides such a great opportunity to actually photograph them under these perfect light conditions. I just love the golden coloration on both the grass as well as in the impalas. In the next month or two, when these grasses become yellow or golden color, in the late afternoon, reflection of light even becomes more beautiful to watch animals moving through the grass. So one of the reasons why the impala rams are starting to form groups now is because of certain changes in terms of daylight. And as the daylight is now becoming shorter and shorter from the 21st of December already, they will start actually having certain chemical changes which will go through their bodies, forcing them to move out of the mixed herds and then to start forming bachelor herds. And already we've watched one or two individuals already trying to set up territories. And over the next few weeks and months, fighting will just increase between these rams, all for the hope that they can maintain a territory for some 7 days to 2 weeks. And this time, they very seldom will go and feed or go and drink. Their main focus is purely to go and mate. It seems that one of them has spotted something, has given a short little snort there, which is often a alarm call that they will use. But immediately they went quiet as if they saw something which obviously is now a neutral and not a threat to them. One of the things that you will also hear in the next few weeks is how they start bellowing and belching and creating incredibly loud roaring sounds. He's going to try and reposition. I've unfortunately now moved right out of our way. And that's typical of them producing those calls when they are herding females into their territories and chasing males out. Good afternoon, Wesley, and welcome to the show. Yes, they're absolutely stunning, and I love coming to these open areas. They never seem to fail on us. Quite often we do find either large groups of impala or zebra, or sometimes combinations of zebra, impala, and wildebeest on these plains. However, this afternoon it seems to be only the impalas that are here. And what makes it even more unique is this beautiful golden coloration of light that's reflected off the grasses. We're going to start moving on and go and see if we can find a spot where we can maybe do a sunset segment. And meanwhile, let's go and see what Tessa is up to.
Funnily enough, before I stalled the vehicle, I was doing exactly the same thing. Looking for a nice, pretty sunset. A very big marula tree. The sun's still a little bit bright on this side. But what I want to do is actually do my little bird call challenge for everybody. I figure now's as good as time as any. We're starting to cool off. You can hear quite a few birds calling in the background. And I'm keen to see what answers we get this afternoon. So if anyone hasn't done this before, what I do is I play a bird call, and then you can send in your comments to let me know what family of birds you think it is, or whether you've got a specific species of bird in mind. And then after we've had a few answers, if anybody gets it right, yay. And then I actually show you what it looks like in the book as well. But I'm going to play the call now. This is one of my mother's favorite bird calls and one of her favorite birds in general. It's a very pretty sound that we hear low down in the bushes. And it's a medium-sized bird. Very beautiful in color. Let's have a listen. All right. So you can let me know what you think that might be. I think it is one of the prettiest bird calls out here. It's usually linked to some specific events, or the beliefs anyway, but I don't want to give away too much. And while we listen to some of the other bird calls around us, let's have a look at that pretty sunset behind the marula. I can actually hear a brown-headed parrot. There, you can hear it. Not often we hear those here. They're normally slightly more forested sections. You can actually see a bit of a bank of clouds building up in the distance, but nothing like we've had in the last week. Much more calm. But it does make for a pretty dramatic skyline. Oh, that was the first bubbling casino that I heard there. We're definitely turning over more towards our nocturnals, pearl-spotted owlets, bubbling casinos, water thickeners. It seems like Mom's bird call was a little bit too easy and everybody is getting the answer right. I'm very happy that you all know the rainbird's call. If anybody has not seen the rainbird before, I'll show you what it looks like. But this is one of the absolute fan favorites in the bush. So I figured I'd mix it up a little bit today. It's this bird that you can see. Definitely one of the nicest looking birds you can see out here, and very, very distinctive. So well done, everybody. I think I'm going to have to make it a little bit more challenging tomorrow. I'll have to try and change it up a bit and see if I can stump everybody. It would be a lot of fun. Alright, let me head on. I'm actually driving down Central Road now, so I'm going to be going through some of the drainage lines on my way to Nyala Road South, which is my all-time favorite on the property. Very, very beautiful road along the drainage line. Alright, I'm definitely going to think of a harder bird call for you all tomorrow. Try and mix it up a little bit. And in the meantime, I'm going to head towards Nyala Road South and mull over a few options in my head.
Welcome back to Pridelands. After several days of cooler and overcast weather that was accompanied by rain, we eventually see that the weather has improved and we've got our first sunset in almost 5 days. We decided that we're going to stop and share the beautiful sunset with you, and at the same time listen to all the sounds in the background. You might hear some oxpeckers, a number of different insect species, as well as Swainson's spurfowl and some laughing doves.
We're just watching all sorts of nonsense going on here. Oh, a bird has just landed at your spa. How rude. Nope, not interested. Okay. Did you get a good shot? Okay. We're trying to do some genitalia stalking, everybody. I know it sounds weird. Benny, you've seen the hyenas brighten your day. Well, mine too. I just really wanted to try and get all cubs chained out before I go. But it requires the other two to come out, to which they're not. They're learning. There is so much fun to be had around the Dane. There are sticks, there are logs, there are puddles, there are trees, long grass. It's a jol, as they would say here in South Africa. A hectic one. But if things do quieten down here, we might just bumble around. We can come back. Heart's always keeping her eye on those cubs, always. And that's exactly why we don't stay here without an adult. They're always Heart and Ribbon, always keeping their eyes open on the cub. That's one of Ribbon's cubs, but look at Heart.
It's a comment from Michelle.
Now the cub's coming here. Watch, Heart's watching every step of the way where this little cub is. Amazing. Little cub, I think you should come back now, thank you. If anything came as in a predator, Heart would be right up. Maybe not Novella. Novella's still quite timid, still quite... I mean, she's only a year herself. But Heart would. And going back to sort of kin recognition, when the moms come to the entrance and they do that sort of to call out the cubs, Ribbon's cubs will immediately know if that is Ribbon or not, and Heart's cub will immediately know if that is Heart or not. They can recognize their mom's audio, and then, of course, when they come out, they can recognize their mom's scent. She will recognize them through scent as well. Now you can relax, Heart. Do you know this little one's spot pattern? It looks just like Intima's. Doesn't it? Can you see that spot? That sort of, those two lines that join together looks just like Intima's. Sorry, FC, I didn't get that question. Doesn't it? Intima has that exact spot pattern on our right side. I do get asked this question almost every day, and I don't actually really know, but I don't believe so. And I'm basing that on knowledge of the size that the clans get to. For example, the North Clan and the clans in Tanzania, the Serengeti, they get extremely large. I mean, over and around 100. So 100's a very large number. So if it was similar to elephants splitting into kinship groups or packs of dogs splitting, even prides splitting into breakaway prides, you would assume that 100 would be more than enough. So the fact that they don't split, that makes me think that there isn't a sort of sustainability threshold, a carrying capacity for hyenas. And that's because, this might sound like a bit of a paradox, but they're so social in some way. They need those social bonds. It's integral to being a spotted hyena, but they're also fiercely independent. I know that sounds like a massive contradiction, but that's how I would describe a hyena, and maybe that's why they don't split. But it's definitely possible, Julie, that in records they have split, but they normally sort out their disputes. If another matriarch wants to arise, look at Waffles, look at Ribbon. They will just conduct a matriarchal overthrow rather than split and become a second matriarch, if that makes sense. But I don't actually know. I've never heard of it happening, but I guess it's possible. Navella's got such dark feet. She always looks like she's wearing stockings. I see how quickly it gets quiet. This is because it's been an incredibly hot day. That now that it's really starting to cool down and it's actually delicious right now, they will go into a deep sleep just like leopards. I do think we will bumble though. I just want to check there's nothing else moving. Twin Dams is a really productive area right now. It sits right on Gowrie Main. But it also means we can come back here a little bit later and see if anything's changed. I.e. any new arrivals. Okay, are all the hyena cubs accounted for, Owen? None of them are at the back of the car. Okay, guys, I'm gonna come back and see you real soon. There's one little cub outside. The other two have gone back inside. Get very good at reversing in this job. That's one thing I will say. Oliver, you're going to miss days at the date. There we go. This is my turn-in spot. I think that's what you said, Oliver. Oh, I'm sure the days are going to get more and more wonderful. I am really sure they're going to get more and more wonderful. I think the Drew McLean are on the brink of a baby boom. And I really hope again this year they're successful. They did suffer a lot of loss last year. Gingy, Navella and Ngwazi are thriving. They're doing so well. But if you think of Navella, she's still very small. She's still young. A year doesn't sound young, but in terms of a spotted hyena, it is. But they lost Shimbulu that dreaded night. I'll never forget that. Every single boy in camp decided to not tell me the truth. Owen Dell was one of them. David Eastaw was another one. John T. Bozas. Anyway, that was awful. And of course they suffered a lot more loss. But I'm sure they're on the brink of a baby boom.
So I've done a little bit of a loop through Central Road, down Yala Road South. Now I'm going back towards Treehouse Dam where I started my afternoon. Just because I have a feeling that there might be elephants around. Maybe now that it's cooled off, they will have come down to have a drink. So I figured it's worth giving it a try. And from here I'll head down to the boundary and see if anything might be waking up and coming, and maybe we'll get surprised by the Talamartis. Because we are losing light, I want to try and get to the dam. I don't want to stop and listen too much. I want to try and get there and see what happens before the light fades. Luckily for us, Gert has already put the infrared light onto the camera, so if the light does drop, we're at least ready to go. Oh no, I'm not seeing any elephants, but I am seeing a lot of disturbance on the top of the water. As though maybe the elephants have already been here sometime when it was a bit hotter. So if you have a look on the surface of the water, you can see the reflection. But as you go towards the edges of the reflection, you can see a little bit of disturbed white water. There you can see some of the foam. It's a little bit easier to see in the shadowed sections of the reflection. So I'm wondering if the elephants came and had a swim here. Very likely that they did, and we missed them. There are quite a few fish active. You can see ripples on top of the water. But other than that, it seems like it is mostly arrow-marked babblers and some other birds. So it definitely seems like it is the place to be this evening with all the different bird calls. I'm starting to hear a few more of the more nocturnal birds now. I was hoping we'd hear some elephants, maybe some branches breaking in the distance. But the smaller things will have to do. And I think we're very happy to be here. I particularly enjoy some of the smaller things. There's a lot of water bubbling today. The fish have been very active. So I think it's a bit of a knock-on effect from the insects being much more plentiful the last 2 days with the weather. The birds are more plentiful as well, and now so are the fish, because a lot of these fish species will eat insects off the top of the water. Possibly getting a last-minute feed in before the light drops too much. I wonder what's upsetting those brown birds. So I'm not going to spend too long here, especially since the light is fading. I think just now I'm going to head towards the boundary and just see if we might find anything coming in, a little last minute Talamati pride or last minute tortoise pan even. And then I want to head towards quarantine and just see what's happening up there. A lot of the time, because it is cooling down so much, we've had the heat of the day. An area like quarantine becomes more popular. And so we might have a bit of luck up there. Billy, I don't think there's any insects that creep me out. I'll have to think about that actually. I know most creepy crawlies used to freak me out when I was younger. There were some things that I was happy to be around, but I think most insects used to creep me out until I actually learned about them and understood them a bit more. I can't think of a single one actually. I know my worst used to be the wasps and the bees because of course they sting. But I'm not scared of those anymore. Perhaps a spider hunting wasp is the most fascinating to me. But it doesn't creep me out. But it's a good question. I mean, I'll think about it, and if I do think of an answer, I'll let you know. It's quite a tough one. Being an entomologist, I find insects fascinating, where I used to find them creepy. Now I find them very entertaining. Maybe a little bit too entertaining for some people. Oh, this is lovely. So what you can hear at the moment is actually, there's a few francolins in the drainage line, but also Swainson's spurfowl. And once they found themselves somewhere to stay safe for the night, they advertise. So that very loud call you heard in the background was a spurfowl advertising that it's found its spot for the night. This territory is taken. Don't come and take it from me. Bit of a dusk chorus. I particularly enjoy how the ripples on top of the water are distorting the reflection of the trees there. And that was from one fish just bubbling up to the surface and going back. But the ripple it created was quite impressive. Now just imagine how wonderful it would be to be sitting here, watching the reflection on the top of the water, and then right in the distance at the top of the dam, you hear some of the branches moving, and then you see the big grey head of an elephant appear with that swagger, that sway as it's coming down to the water's edge, and then almost running the last few steps to the water. It almost sounds magical. I've always wanted to see a leopard drinking from Treehouse Dam as well. Wishful thinking, but you never know. So I've just noticed while we're sitting here, I'm actually about to head off from Treehouse Dam, but I've noticed a little leaf hopper keeping me company. I seem to have a new friend. So I don't want to get too close because it'll hop away, but you can see it there, just on the canvas. It's supposed to be shaped, if you look at it carefully, it's shaped like a leaf. If you folded a leaf in half. Greyish in colour, like the bark of a tree. And it's got pretty extensive wings too. Called a leaf hopper because they're shaped like a leaf and hop very, very far distances. Have a look at those markings. You can actually see each little bar of the wing. I love this. Hello, little friend. This is quite a small one. It's less than a centimetre long, so a very cute little friend to keep me company this evening while I'm driving towards the boundary in quarantine. It sounds like Lauren has got a very beautiful sky that she's watching, so let's head over there.
We have just stopped for a bit of a break, actually. A pooza stop with lots of water, sadly not grape juice. Just that skyline. It's not entirely dramatic, but if you look carefully enough, that blue layer, you can see that blue layer just above the tree line, that's the Earth's shadow. The shadow of our planet Earth. Then above that blue layer, you start to see all the reflections of the sunset. But if you've ever wondered what that blue layer is, that's exactly what it is. If you think about it, Earth is round. Sorry to all flat earthers. And as the sun moves, naturally it's going to cast a shadow. There's going to be a shadow. The sun is so much larger than Earth as well. And that's what we're looking at right now. It obviously happens at sunrise and sunset, and it's just stunning to look at. And of course, the casinas are bubbling. So we're just going to sit here for a moment or two. hope you enjoyed that little moment as much as I did. We're going to sit here for just a little bit longer. We're just sitting watching all the dramatic sides of the sky. We've looked at the Earth's shadow, the clouds rolling in, the sunset. It's probably the most dramatic sunset we've had in the past few days, and listening to the sounds of the bush. So that's exactly what we're going to do for the next moment or two. Isn't it just so peaceful? I love the sounds of the bubbling casinos.
I am officially bumbling along Philemon's cut line. I want to go and check close to Philemon's Dip. I know there's a resident rose eagle owl that's there every now and then. I'm adamant I want to see it. So I keep checking as often as I can, especially the evenings. The temperatures dropped substantially since the sun went down, and I think we're going to have one of those very crisp, cool evenings and quite a cold morning tomorrow morning, but clear. And this is more what we're used to, and so I have a feeling the animals are going to be moving a little bit early tonight and very possibly still moving early tomorrow morning. So I'm hopeful that as we keep going, we might get lucky. We're getting to that tricky light level now as well, where you can see with the naked eye, but you can't see clearly the finer details. This is when predators start to use the light to their advantage. I can just picture a last-minute Cara on that termite mound or in that jackalberry tree on quarantine. This is the area where the rose eagle owl normally is, so I just check kind of up in the higher branches of the trees all along the edge of the drainage line on both sides. It is quite a large owl, but you'd be surprised how easily they blend in. bus spotlight. Big bump coming past. I feel like we've covered a lot of different bases today. We've done a little bit of the northern boundary, a little bit of the western boundary, been close to the eastern boundary and the southern boundary. We've done a little bit of the area of Kalamba, a little bit of the area of where we hope the lions are going to pop out at some point, some of the dams, and popped through 1 or 2 drainage lines. So we really have covered a lot of bases. I think it's been so hot though that the animals have just been hiding away. Now, however, cooling down. Now is prime time. That's what I believe. Ruth, yes, we definitely get some very interesting night birds. So our nightlife for birds in particular can be very, very different day to day and area to area. We get quite a few different owl species. There's a few different nightjar species. Things like thickneys and lapwings, which aren't really nocturnal, but you find them at night almost every night. Not that we like to shine on them. But also, you know, there's a lot of nocturnal insects. So things like moths, sometimes antlions, even sometimes beetles. And so even some of the other birds, especially when you've got a full moon, will be out trying to hawk insects. So we really do have a very good diversity. Most of the eagles and things like that you won't see at night. You'll only really see the owls. But in terms of smaller birds, we have got a lot that are nocturnal. I would actually love to see some bats, because I've been thinking about that a lot recently. And we see a few of the night birds, mostly on the ground, but occasionally flying around, quite a bit up in trees. But I haven't seen many bats, and again I think it links back to the lack of insects. Maybe we'll start seeing some more bats around about now, but because we've had hardly any insects, it's this massive knock-on effect. There's less birds, especially the migratory species. There's definitely less bats than usual. I don't think I've actively noticed any bats while I've been here in the whole 2 weeks. And normally you would have bats in the summer flying around all the time. And then obviously that affects everything else as well. The knock-on effect. So I've just arrived back up at quarantine, so I'm scanning all of the big trees and then under every dense bush that I can find. Let us stop up ahead just now and have a little bit of a listen. Already what's striking me is that I don't see any impalas. And this is a bad sign for the impalas, but it's a good sign for us if we're looking for predators. The impalas are normally up here by now, but maybe because it's warmer. We can try and predict these things, but we can't always be 200% certain as to why, unless we've witnessed something ourselves. Oh, I really am hoping for a little last minute car up. Go and drive the little link road that's just to the side of quarantine. It's a little closer to the drainage line where the elephants actually disappeared to earlier. Let's see if I might find anything there. It's eerily quiet on quarantine. Makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I don't know if anyone else gets that feeling. I definitely get that feeling. When it's very quiet and you know there's normally life around you. And all of a sudden you get the feeling something is watching you. You're not sure what, but you know something is watching you, or that something is there, something isn't what it normally is. That intuition. Arlar Moore. I have been wondering the same thing. It's a similar conversation to the bats. The bush baby species will feed on insects. Some will feed on fruits as well, but these insects are affecting everything. Everything that you can think of is being affected by something tiny, whether you know it or not. And I'm wondering if that's got an influence at the moment. I think it very well could. Because usually you would see them, even if you don't get a very good view, you would see them bouncing from tree to tree, along the floor or across the branches over the sky. You know, you'd see them, even if it's a glimpse of them. And I have not seen a single one in my entire time at Juno. Not one bush baby. It's a little bit concerning to think about. And it's not like we're in a bad area for it, because they do naturally occur here. They should be here on a regular basis. There's more than enough to the trees. That's not a problem. But especially a lot of the smaller species as well, you know, you find that because the focus can sometimes be on the larger animals, not necessarily with us here, but in the world, a lot of the focus is on larger animals because you see them, you relate to them, you're immediately drawn to them, something like a giraffe, for example. But nobody really thinks about the frog species that have already gone extinct in the last 2 years alone, just because of a 1 or 2 degrees Celsius temperature change with global warming, with climate change. And I think it would be a little bit more difficult to relay that to people as well. You know, if you're thinking about it this way, I can pretty much talk myself blue in the face to somebody about a frog, but if they really were quite, hello elephant, if they really were quite uninterested in frogs, it wouldn't actually make a difference to them, you know. Where are you going so quickly, elephant? But if I spoke to them about a giraffe, immediately I might get a reaction. Oh my goodness, this is the elephant with the bad stomach again. Did you hear that? Oh my goodness. Arlarma, you're most welcome. I'm glad I could give you an answer. I don't know where the elephant is going, but it might actually be worthwhile me taking Zoe's road instead of Quarantine South. Just for a little bit to see where we are going. It actually doesn't surprise me now why this elephant has been lagging behind the rest of the herd. If it's got a bad stomach and it's not feeling so good, it might be a little bit behind always. A little bit slower, just not because it's going to die or it's that bad, but if it's feeling a bit ill, it's going to use less energy at walking, it's going to keep it slow. And maybe that's why every time we've seen it, it's been the last one to join the rest of the herd. It seems we are still marilla feeding everybody. Nothing has changed on this front. Everybody is still marilla feeding. Let's see if there's a calf. It's quite tough to see. They're a little bit in the thickets there. Oh, you can hear them chewing. Let's actually just have a little bit of a listen. See if we can decipher anything special about the elephants. Maybe something they're eating or how many there might be. I think you can see one coming up behind the bush. This poor elephant is struggling so much with its stomach today. Look at the one at the back. It looks like it's trying to reach up and grab as high as possible. Oh wow, you can actually see the leaves in its mouth. That is incredible. I've never seen that view of an elephant before with infrared. You can even see some drool hanging out of its mouth. What a special moment. Thank you, Ellie. I'm going to sit here for as long as I can and just see what these elephants decide to do. What a special evening.
It's that time of night where we've got our spotlight out and we're just driving really slowly to try and see if we can catch a glimpse of anything. I'm looking for owls, but sometimes you'll spot a genet on the road. It's been a while actually since I've had a white-tailed mongoose, I must say. Bush baby in a tree, although some of the trees are so dense right now. But either way, the slower you drive, the more chance you have got of picking out things at night time. And of course, the slower you drive, the less noise your engine makes. And you can maybe hear audio of lions or leopards. It's been such a beautiful sunset, such a beautiful evening. Actually, such a beautiful afternoon. But it's cooled down nicely. Sometimes on these hot summer nights, it's still so hot and sticky at this time, but it's cooled down. I'm sure lots of animals are getting mobile right now. But an owl and a chameleon would keep me really happy. So we are going to head up to the open area just up here and hope that we can catch some nocturnal activity.
I am watching some very cute Ellie butts here in the dark as they're feeding. They're making quite a ruckus, breaking branches, tearing leaves off, and just enjoying the nice cool weather tonight. We've still been chuckling at this poor elephant's stomach making noises. But in our defense, it is the first time we've ever heard an elephant's stomach make that noise. Most unusual. I've heard it in lions a lot, but never in an elephant. Speaking of, I actually thought I heard some lions calling just now, in the direction of maybe Triple M. Might be worthwhile me checking tomorrow. This is a very cute little calf. Look how it's trying to use that trunk. It's doing pretty well. Can't break that last bit off. The whole branch is coming down. I think it's actually got a tick on the underside of its chin as well. As it lifted, I could see a lighter patch. Looked like a very round and healthy tick. There you could see a glimpse of it just under the ear as it moved. What a successful day, starting and ending with elephants. Oh, look how tall that grass is. It's a good thing the elephants are so brave and trust their instincts so much. You could not pay me enough to walk through that grass at the moment. It's way too tall. It's taller than the big adult female elephant. What a gorgeous scene. Oh, my hat's in the frame. Justin, yes, I'm sure elephants will suffer from mosquito bites, especially on the very thin skin behind the ears, on the backs of the ears. That's how they cool their bodies down. And so this herd, you often will see the elephants in this herd scratching behind their ears with their trunks, and even on the inside of the ear canal. And I'm sure some of that would be mosquito bites. It makes sense that it would be. I'd also imagine some of the more sensitive areas, maybe around the feet or underneath the tail, they would also suffer from mosquito bites. You can see all of the insects flying through at the moment. We've had a sudden burst in mosquitoes since the rain, which we were expecting. We were quite surprised by the lack of mosquitoes, as with the lack of all the other insects. Now it seems that the mosquitoes have come out in full force, and if we haven't taken precautions, we probably get an extra 100 bites a drive. I can still hear its stomach. Oh my goodness. I'm not sure if that one was gas or actually internal sounds. It sounded like it may have been gas. Denver, I'm not sure if the insects would be attracted to the IR light. I think in a sense they would be, because even when I look at it with the naked eye, it's got a small flashing light on the top, and I can see a glow of red from the bulbs. Not bright, it doesn't actually emit much of a light, but I'm sure they might be attracted to that. They are definitely more attracted to the headlights and the spotlight, because that is actual solid bright light, and just the same as it would be drawn to a flame or a lamp outside. It's the same concept. Oh, that poor elephant, I can still hear its stomach. I'm not ever going to get over today with this poor elephant. That was definitely gas coming out. Oh my gosh. Must have eaten something that does not agree with it, because I've never heard sounds like that come from an elephant. And all the other sounds we heard earlier in the day were definitely internal. You could hear it was like a bubbling in the intestines. And this can happen with a lot of animals, especially things like hyenas and, well, actually hyenas a little bit less because of the strong digestive system that they have, but they will still get gas. But lions in particular, you can often hear their stomachs moving. they often pass very loud and very smelly gas, and elephants pass a lot of gas, but I've never heard that bubbling inside the intestines before. That's definitely new for me. How strange. Oh no, I can still hear it in the distance. What an unusual evening, everybody. Maybe it ate too many rotten marulas. Marulas are very high in fibre. Oh, Wesley, I also enjoyed the bird sightings today. Thank you. Thank you for joining, and I'm glad that you appreciate the birds. I know that I love them, and I'll never get tired of the small things. I'm glad that you hear from me. Very dramatic skyline. It's so nice to look from side to side, right over the horizon, and not see a massive bank of clouds. I think I'm going to sit here for a little bit longer and just take it in while I listen to those elephants moving further and further away. If you listen carefully, you can hear some hyenas calling as well. They're calling from the direction of Twin Dams, so it might be the Juma clan calling. Maybe they're saying goodbye to Lauren. As I say that, they stop. Most of what I can hear now is the buzzing of these insects you can see flying past. Actually, some cicadas for a change, which is lovely. Bubbling casinos. And the elephants far in the distance already, making a noise as they're walking. I'm not sure if you can hear the mosquitoes. I know my mom has never heard a mosquito in her life. She can't hear that frequency. But if you can hear the mosquitoes, they are everywhere at the moment. You've chosen a good mosquito spot. Maybe that's why the elephants moved so quickly. Absolutely stunning way to end my evening. It's just been absolutely perfect, starting and ending with elephants and sounds.
Well, it wouldn't be your last drive if you couldn't end on an impala, and a fabulous one at that. But I have had a loveliest drive. Elephants everywhere. An active den. We saw Ribbon. Ribbon came down to Twin Dams to drink. It was almost like she just came to say goodbye and then left. And oh, what a waddle she's got, that little stump of a tail. But every journey comes to an end, everyone. And it's now time to pass the WildEarth torch over, handing it over to Tessa on her permanent residency here at WildEarth. And she will take that torch and she will carry it far and wide. She will knock it out the park. I know that. and of course the others that are to follow. But what a journey it has been, everyone, that's for sure. Angela, you love having the ladies on drive. There should always be a lady on drive. I've lived in this camp for a long time, and the female energy really does balance out the male. I often find that looking at the natural world as well. Sometimes you need a good dose of female, that's for sure. But never say never, everyone, and thank you for always being there. Whether it was the supporters or the haters, I thank you all. I really do. And please, please look after my Juma clan for me. I'm feeling sad about it already. I love those hyenas far too much. Okay, Owen, you can take the camera off me now before I get emotional. But thanks to good old Boris Johnson, I did get another month with you all, and that's what matters. So never say never to the future, but just a big thank you to you all for being part of that journey. Some of you, and I won't say names, have really become friends, genuine friends who I talk to, and you have been nothing but supportive. All the highs, all the lows, there definitely are lows, all the mistakes, all the bumps in the road, all the laughs, and that's what really matters. At the end of the day, all the laughs has been fantastic. And I'll miss Juma terribly. Mostly the hyenas. And I really hope Tlalamba brings those cubs out for you all and you start to see them more and more. But I have to say that sighting Owen and I had with them were extremely special. But please keep jumping on board. Tessa and Jonty will take you on a wonderful safari tomorrow. And JP, of course, on foot. The safaris go on. Never stop bumbling, guys. And thank you once again for jumping on board. All your comments, all your questions, and all your jokes along the way. Please do join us tomorrow. For now, that's it, folks.